Greetings everyone, this is Alan Amara with my channel Eyes Wide Shut. I got this article. In actual fact, I've got two articles I'd like to read to you. I want to know what it is that we're going to be eating in the future, because there's some greedy ass people and they want us to be eating certain types of things, okay, to get away from the things that we have been used to eating, because they're saying that basically things such as cows are giving off too much methane. Cows are giving off too much methane. Is this correct? Now, let me read out this article to you. What are they giving to cows to stop methane? The company behind W.E.F, which is added in small quantities to cow feed, says it could reduce cow methane emissions by 30 to 45%. It has been approved for use by UK regulators, and several major supermarkets will stock milk produced by cattle eating feed with the additive. What are the possible long-term negative effects of this? W.E.F, the feed additive designed to reduce methane emissions in cattle, has sparked debate over its long-term effect. Some concerns raised include, now before I read on, so it's not just cows, yeah? It's other ruminant animals they're thinking of that create too much methane, and it's adding to climate change. It's adding to the climate change, right? So they want to try and reduce the amount of methane that these animals are giving off. So it's not just cows. It's probably sheep and goats and other cattle such as that as well. So take this in mind. Impact on cattle health. Studies have noted potential adverse effects such as reduced feed and water intake, smaller ovaries, and lower heart rate in cows. Human health risk. There are fears that chemical residues from W.E.F could remain in meat and dairy products, with insufficient long-term studies to guarantee safety. Environmental and agricultural concerns. Critics argue that altering the cattle's digestion is this way interferes. Critics argue that the altering cattle's digestion in this way interferes with natural processes and could have unforeseen consequences for the ecosystem. While manufacturers insist that the additive is safe, the controversy has led some farmers and consumers to question its use. And now, Copilot asked me this question: what do you think? Should we be cautious about such intervention, or reducing methane worth the risk? Listen, we don't know what this long-term effects of this thing is, right? These people are tampering around with Mother Nature. Cows and other animals, ruminant animals, such as goats, have been around for thousands and thousands of years, if not millions of years. And now you want to start interfering with them because you're saying they're giving off too much methane, and that's adding to problems with emissions, right? With carbon emissions. So you want to try and reduce the amount of methane that they're giving off. But what's going to be the long-term effect for those animals? And what's going to be the long-term effect for us? Because we tend to have these animals either for food or some form of production. So if we are eating those animals, for example, taking milk from them, what is going to be the long-term effect to us? Is it going to be detrimental to us for our health? And guess what as well? We also, as human beings, we give off methane, don't we? We give off methane as well. Are they going to start putting things in our food as well to stop us from giving off so much methane? Some scientists say, no, we don't actually give off that much methane as human beings, but ruminant animals like cows and sheep and goats give off a lot of methane. Let me read on. Right? Whilst manufacturers insist the additive is safe, the controversy has led to some farmers and consumers to question its use. I've read that bit. Let me go on. The world government are trying to cool down the planet by spraying the skies, trying to make the planet more sustainable. Is that correct? Trying to make the planet more sustainable, right? They're trying to cool the planet down. The idea of governments spraying the skies to cool down the planet is often linked to solar geoengineering, a controversial climate intervention method. Some researchers have explored stratospheric aerosol injections, and they call them SAI, short. SAI, stratospheric aerosol injection, which involves spraying tiny particles into the atmosphere to reflect sunlight and reduce global temperatures. However, this is still in experimental phase and not widely implemented. Yet. But they got this other thing. They're spraying up in the skies. And some people don't want to admit this thing called chemtrails. I'll go into that in another video in more detail, okay? Because that is also being sprayed in order to cool down the planet, so said. But there's other things also. Let me read on. There are also conspiracy theorists, you see? There are also conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theory was made up by the CIA. Conspiracy theorists, those are people who conspire, get together and make plots or plans. Well, guess what? I'm not a conspiracy theorist, if that's your definition, because I don't personally go and conspire with somebody else to make any plans about anything. Okay? This thing by the CIA, calling people conspiracy theorists, is just another label. It's just another label, yeah? To try and character assassinate people. Let me read on. So, there are also conspiracy theorists suggest that governments are secretly spraying chemicals into the sky, but these claims have been debunked, have they? Really? While some scientists study geoengineering as a potential climate solution, it remains highly debated due to unknown long-term effects and ethical concerns. Would you support an approach, or do you think, would you support such an approach, or do you think we should focus on reducing emissions instead? This is what Copilot's asking me. And I asked it, do human beings give off methane? And this is what Copilot has said. Yes, humans produce methane, though not nearly as much as cows. Methane is a byproduct of digestion, and it's mainly released through fluctuants. You know, when somebody farts, break wind, fluctuants, posh name for wind, a posh name for wind. However, the amount each person emits is very small compared to livestock. We don't know what the long-term effect is going to be, right? Or giving these animals this chemical to stop the methane, do we? Interestingly, the human gut microbiome plays a role in methane production. Some people have more methane producing bacteria in their intestines, which can affect digestion and even contribute to conditions like irritable bowel syndrome, or IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. So while humans do release methane, we are nowhere near as significant a source as livestock or industries. but it's so fascinating how our bodies interact with the environment in ways we don't always think about. In ways that we don't always think about. Let me ask you this. Do you think like in a few years' time that they're going to turn around and say, these people, these scientists who are talking about methane and trying to reduce the amount of methane in ruminant animals such as cows and sheep and goats? Let me ask you, we humans also give off methane, so could they start saying that we give off too much methane? Maybe not as individuals, but as a group of people, as a society, we're giving off too much methane. And is there a possible plan for us too down the line? You gotta be careful, man. The other thing as well, robots are slowly starting to take over our jobs. Robots, and I say it again, robots and avatars are slowly starting to take over our jobs. If, for some reason, human beings are reduced as a population, could these bots come in replacement? Because guess what? Do they give off methane? Do bots give off methane? We do, but bots don't. Are bots more sustainable for the environment? Are they much more useful for the environment than us humans? I'll give you pause for thought there. I'll give you pause for thought. Bots don't give off methane, do they? Bots are more self-sustainable. I got another thing here. We're talking about food, right? Man, they're attacking us human beings at so many different levels now. At so many different levels. I'm telling you, we need to wake up. Do you know that they're trying to create artificial meat in labs? 3D meat. Artificial meat in labs. This is another thing why they want to reduce the amounts of methane in the air, because they're saying that the cows and goats and sheep are giving off too much methane. So what they're starting to do now is create artificial meat in labs. So the long-term effect of cows, right, and sheep, will these animals slowly start to be reduced in numbers, and in its place there's artificially constructed meat. They're making meat now in labs. Wake up, people. Some of the meat that you're eating right now could be made in a lab. You might not even know it. Let me read this. UK stores start selling edible bugs to low-income families in the UK, right? There are some stores in the UK right now, since 2020 going forward, have started to sell bugs in stores. Do you know that? And that's in the UK. And prepare people with recipe kits for their starving children. So they're preparing recipe kits for starving children. Now, why are they focusing on low-income families? Why do they want to give low-income families bugs? They're testing them out first. They're testing them out first before they start putting this thing out for the general population. We need to wake up. Why are they attacking low-income families? And they want to feed them bugs, right? Let me read on. So things such as worms and crickets is what they want to feed them. Worms and crickets. They got things such as cricket burgers, as well as nuggets and mince, yeah, that are made out of insects, right? You'll have nothing and still be happy, was what Klaus Schwab said. Yeah, he's the main person for the W.E.F. Although now he stepped down, right? He was the one who created this whole thing, this W.E.F. This W.E.F., World Economic Forum. He said, you'll have nothing. You'll have nothing, but you'll still be happy. What do you actually mean by this? And you know what? I don't think Klaus Schwab was the CEO, the original person who started up this W.E.F. I think there's somebody else behind this. Okay? He was just the mouthpiece for them. Let me read on. The supermarket is involved with a TV game show, right? This certain supermarket, right? They're involved with a certain TV game show in which insect farmers will pitch the bugs as the next big thing for the supermarket, says the report. Reason why I'm not mentioning the supermarket is because, you know, if I say anything, my video is going to get pulled down. So I'm not mentioning what the supermarket is. Okay, so I'm just reading around. I'm just reading around the subject. One of the contestants, Aaron Robinson, said, we're on a mission to change perceptions of insects as food. They are one of the most sustainable protein sources in the world. One of the most sustainable protein sources in the world. Bugs. Do you want to be eating the bugs? Do you? Further, he added, claims that crickets contain more protein than beef, adding, we want to take bug consumption to the mainstream. And I'll read that bit again. He added, claims that crickets contain more protein than beef addings. We want to take bugs to the general public, yeah, for general public consumption. If we are able to get in front of the store, if we are able to get in front of this store audience, that would be an amazing opportunity. The move is the latest growing trend of pushing bug eating on the masses as a way of saving the planet. Now I'm starting to get upset, man. These people are taking the mickey. They're taking the mickey. And you know what? There's going to be a lot of people that's going to go along with this, right? It's starting to make me feel quite upset that they are trying to make human beings, especially like the low-income families, right, eat bugs and crickets and worms and grasshoppers and all those kinds of things, right? And there's some people just going to accept it. They're just going to accept it. It's not being fed to the elite, is it? It's being fed to poor people, low-income groups. The move is the latest growing trend of pushing bug eating on the masses as a way of saving the planet. Saving the planet? You just want the planet for yourself. You're not trying to save the planet, right, to try and save it and help people. You got a different agenda, a different game, right, a different set of rules for yourself than what you have for the general public. You have a different set of rules for you and for the elite than you have for the general public. You're just treating people like puppets. The Canadian company, the Aspired Food Group, pledged to produce 1,000 tons of insects per year. 9,000, sorry, insects. Let me read that again. As you see, I'm getting quite emotional here. I'm getting quite upset. the Canadian company, the Asparagus Food Group, pledged to produce 9,000 tons of insects per year for human and pet consumption. For human and pet consumption. After completing construction of the world's biggest cricket food processing center. Man, let me just finish off here. In addition to crickets, worms, maggots are also big in Europe. There are even proposals to feed them to the school kids. There's also proposals to feed them to school kids. I'm going to stop here because I'm going to do another part to this video, and I want to do a live stream because it's coming up to almost 400 videos I've done now. So on my 400th video, I'm going to do a live stream and bring in everybody for the general public because I want other people to come in and make their comments, and then I'll be able to get some feedback as to what other people think about this, right? What other people think about this. Because to me, all this thing about sustainability, right? It seems to me there's something else behind this agenda. Why do they want us to eat bugs? Why are they reducing methane in animals such as cows? Eventually, these animals will probably be eradicated, eliminated. What kind of future are we going to have for ourselves and for our kids if we don't start pushing back? Cricket burgers, nugget burgers, mince meat made from insects. Is this the kind of world, seriously, you want for you and your children? Really? Do you think the elites feed their children crickets and bugs? No, they want the general public to be eating these things. And these animals, such as cows, sheep, goats, who produce a lot of methane. Are these things going to be around in years and years to come? What kind of foods are we going to be eating in the future is the title of this video. And if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. This is Amara, over and out.